My name is Key Powell. I own Key Security Services. And for those of you that don't know me, yes, my name is Key, and yes, I am a locksmith. And this gets me thinking, who else has a name that perfectly matches their profession? I found this fellow, Paul Schwinghammer, who happens to be a builder in Minnesota. Next up is Todd Cutright, who works for a logging company. And finally, perhaps the most embarrassing on the list, Linda Weiner, who is a sex therapist. Okay, so real quick, just a few things about me and my company. Key Security Services is a community association specialist. We understand the very unique nuances of working with a board of directors and managers and those pesky, nosy homeowners. We offer a spectrum of services designed for those community associations, from security cameras, electronic access control, just mechanical locksmithing, and even vehicle gates now. I also have over 30 years experience working right here in Southwest Florida. Our climate, our community makeup makes for some very specific and unique needs that our associations need to handle. We guarantee prompt 24-hour, 7 days a week service. We understand that when something doesn't work right, a gate won't open, a door won't open, or a door won't lock, that it's not something that can necessarily wait till the next day or the next week. Often it's you need somebody, or you're expecting somebody to be hopping in a truck and driving straight to you. And finally, and this is very important, we are fully licensed and insured. There are a lot of people out there working without an electrical license, which may be fine for locksmithing, but for your access control, your cameras, your gate needs, some type of electrical license is definitely necessary to protect you and your association. So enough about me, let's get down to it. Okay, today we're going to be reviewing some case studies of real events that happened in real properties right here in Southwest Florida, with some tweaks to the details to protect the privacy of these properties. And I want to start off with the infamous toilet paper bandit. Picture this, a beautiful high-rise condominium right on the beach here in Naples. And over the course of maybe 6 months, homeowners were reporting various things missing from their residences. Things like jewelry or watches, clothing, collectibles, and yes, even toilet paper. At first, the reports weren't taken very seriously. After all, how would you respond if your homeowners are reporting that their toilet paper was being stolen? And on top of that, it was kind of an older community, and so the staff discounted it, thinking, well, it's just forgetfulness, that they just lost these items, or it was a family member that had taken these things and didn't think much of it. After all, this location also had a 24-hour concierge guard. Wait, hold on. No. This condominium did it right, with live video feeds of all entry points to the building and video feeds inside each of the elevators. Now, the guards hadn't noticed any suspicious activity at any of these points, but over time, the reports began to pile up, and they decided it's not something they could ignore any longer. So let me give you just a moment to think, how might you respond in this same situation? In this case, the association decided to get the police involved. So they filed a police report, and after an investigation, the police discovered two important things. First, there was never any sign of forced entry, and second, the items only seemed to come up missing when the homeowners were out of town, and this directed all of their attention to people with master keys. Now, the association thought they had a high-security key-controlled system on their property and that only 8 master keys existed. One for the manager, a couple for maintenance people, a couple for the guards, and a few board members. But on further investigation by a local locksmith, they discovered they did not have the key control system they thought they had. And so instead of just 8 people potentially with master keys, there were tons. I'd like to take a quick break here to discuss high security key systems. High security keys are special keys and locks that are harder to pick or force open. You can usually tell a high security system by looking at the keys. High security key systems also offer another advantage, that the keys cannot be duplicated. Now, many managers see these key blanks, if you can see here on the picture, that say do not duplicate right on the blank. Now, frankly, that do not duplicate stamp doesn't mean much. I like to say it's kind of like saying please do not duplicate, because there is no law preventing somebody from copying that key. And in fact, as you can see in some of these kiosks that are popping up at everywhere from Lowe's to Bed Bath & Beyond, you can stick one of those keys right in that machine and it will copy that key without a second thought. So back to our case. Now that the association realized that they did not actually have a controlled key system, this opened up all kinds of possibilities. Past board members, past managers, past staff, lots of people, and a big mess. So the association immediately decided that they needed to regain control of their master key and hired a locksmith to rekey the entire property. And about halfway through the rekey process, the police showed up on site to arrest, and maybe I can make a drum roll sound here. Great, you guessed it, the manager. Yes, the manager had access to keys to the units. He also knew when homeowners were going to be in town or not, and he was not at all suspicious when he might be seen on an elevator coming and going from the building or on from certain floors. And this allowed him to sneak small items out of people's homes over a long period of time and eventually to be noticed. Now, when they did raid his home to look for these items, believe it or not, they found lots of rolls of partially used toilet paper. I think we can all admit this guy must have had something psychological going on. So that brings us to the question, what could the association have done to prevent or discourage this? And while it's impossible to fully protect all the keys in a master key system and to know exactly where everything is, they ultimately decided to go with this unit. Now, this is literally the Cadillac of key boxes. Not only is there a lock on the outer door, but also the individual keys inside of the box are also locked and secured. This allows you to give the guard access to only certain keys in the box, and every key is tracked as to when it was taken out, who took it out, and when it was returned. It also allows you to track which keys are currently checked out, and even set up alerts if a key is not returned in a timely manner. So if a guard does not return a unit key, say by the end of the day, maybe an email goes out to the manager. Or if a master key is checked out for longer than the predetermined period of time, again, an email alert to the manager or a board member. And this allows multiple people to know exactly which keys are out and who has them. All right, that wraps up our first case study, and I'd like to take a moment just to pause and see if anybody has any comments or even better questions or stories that you want to share of how you've dealt with similar scenarios and the solutions you came up with. I believe everybody's probably muted out there, so you might have to type it into the comments, but I just wanted to take a moment. Usually in the live version of this class, this is where we get lots of comments back and forth and some experiences shared. So go ahead, type up your comments. I will read them out loud, and maybe we can get a little smarter by sharing with each other. Okay, so I just had a manager email me a question asking how much that key box costs. So, hey, great question. This is the same system that the Seminole Casino uses, so as you can imagine, it is quite expensive. I forgot to mention that it will also tie into your existing access control system if you have one, so that you can use the same fob or code to access the keys. So depending on the size that you need, how many keys it needs to hold, it can range from maybe $7,000 to $15,000. Very expensive, as I said. Now, what a lot of properties have done is there is a simpler, smaller version of this key box that only holds maybe 20 keys, but still provides that same tracking of who opened the box and took what and when. That runs maybe about $2,500, and you might just put some master keys or some very important keys to sensitive areas in there, but not necessarily every unit key. So either way, good question. Let me check here and see if something else has popped up. Okay, I just had another question come in. It says, what happened to the manager? Okay, well, I believe he's out of jail, and last I heard he was still living in the area. So honestly, if somebody knows him or recognizes him, I don't want to really share his name. I sometimes feel bad because I think, man, what if he's just this reformed guy trying to move on with his life? So if you know him and he's reformed and he would like to sort of share his story with us and maybe give us some insight, I wouldn't mind bringing him in for kind of an interview to hear his side of it. But again, I think he's still in the area, obviously no longer a manager. So let me pause just a few more seconds here in case anybody else has any questions, and we'll get on to the next case. Great. So the next case study I'd like to go over, I'd like to call Murder, She Wrote. It's a very unique property, especially for Southwest Florida, where the first floor is retail and the upper floors are residential space. And unlike most properties where you're trying to keep strangers off of your property, of course, in this case, strangers are actively invited onto the property. They did some very good things, though. All of the lobbies that allowed people up into the residential area, they locked down, and they used a high security key controlled system. Very, very good start. Additionally, they installed a camera system in each of the various lobbies to keep an eye on who is coming and going. Shortly after these systems were installed, a homeowner called the manager and reported a credible threat on his life. Now, the homeowner had already spoken with the police and let the police department know what was going on, but they wanted the homeowners association also to know in case there was anything they could do to just keep an eye on things. Now, I'm sure it's hard to imagine what it would be like to be in this scenario, but I'd like to throw out to you real quick, what might you do if you were in this scenario and a homeowner called you saying they were afraid for their life? What might you do on your own properties? I'm going to pause here, type it in the comments, send me a text or an email. Okay, so I'm getting a wide range of responses, but several people are saying that they wouldn't do anything. That might be true. Many people would say that the association is not implicitly responsible for the homeowner's security, that the association isn't in the security business. So that might be okay. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. Let's see. A few people suggested contacting the police directly to ask for direction. Actually, I kind of like this. It's almost like the association is bringing in an expert to offer advice. The police department, local sheriff, will come and sort of walk your property and give you some suggestions as to things that you can improve or things that you're doing well. And I feel like this might be a good layer of lawsuit protection that the board can come back and say, look, we brought in an expert. The expert said do these things. We followed through with those things. And in a sense, you're saying you've done all that you can. So maybe I like it. And above all, it's free. That's great. Let's see. Another said just do nothing. Great. Okay. Oh, here's something. They're saying hire additional security or roving patrols. I don't know. That might be a tough decision. I imagine that can get expensive. And I'm not sure how the association, or if the association can respond that way for every type of report or security concern. But maybe, I guess you can say that they've definitely did their best. Okay, so this association actually did what the majority of you all said. They didn't do anything. And unfortunately, about 6 weeks after the report, the homeowner was shot and killed in their home. So now, of course, the police are involved, and the first thing they ask for is a list of people that had access to the property using the key. Remember, the association had this key-controlled system, so they should be able to say, these are the people that have keys, and these are how many keys are out there. But unfortunately, they weren't really using that system well. They couldn't even say how many keys existed to gain access to the property. So that was out. Next, the police asked for video footage from those lobbies and common areas. And again, unfortunately, the association had purchased cameras from probably a local retailer like Costco or Sam's, and it only stored about 12 hours of video. So by the time the video was requested, it was gone. It had already been overwritten. But even if the video existed, the system they purchased was an old analog technology that provides grainy, hard to see video that would likely not have been very useful. Of course, if you're this guy, he's kind of hard to miss. This guy booking it out of his car and spilling beer all over the parking lot. I have to say, I love thief fail videos. This guy actually, I think, is rather ingenious. He's using, I think, a bike tire to take out the glass. In one of my other classes, I talk about how thieves tend to be a little less sophisticated in Southwest Florida and just throw rocks through glass to get into units. But I think he forgets on his way out here which door he had taken care of, and he's out. And this guy's just my favorite because, man, he's booking it, and it looks like he is home free. But once again, somebody made that glass a little too clean, and he looks like he is out for the count. To get back to the case, in the end, the solution was actually fairly simple. One of the lobby doors didn't fully latch and lock, and this allowed the perpetrator onto the property. To make matters worse, the problem had been already reported to management, and management just hadn't fixed it. I like to point out here that a lot of you might have security systems on your property that currently aren't functioning. It could be a gate or a lock or a door. Fake cameras are actually a big deal out there, where an association not wanting to spend the money to put in a real system, or they might have an old system that just isn't functioning. And instead of taking that old system down, they leave it up thinking, well, it's a deterrent. And that may be true. It may deter people from vandalizing, say, a pool area or an area that's covered by a camera. But I think your lawyer would agree that if you have a system in place and it's not working, you either need to remove that system or you need to fix it. When you sit in that limbo, you're giving a sense of security to your homeowners that doesn't really exist, and that could open you up to liability. But while we're on the topic of video, I wanted to play a few clips here just to show how important video can be for your property.
Has this ever happened to you? You're on vacation. You think you have your bearings, but you turn a corner, and suddenly you're lost. The good news is you have a map. The bad news is you have no idea where you are. Pay close attention as this couple asks for directions to the museum.
Excuse me, sir?
And listen carefully, because in a minute, you'll have to find the museum on your own using this map.
Yeah? Do you live here?
Yeah.
Okay, we're really lost.
Hey, where are you trying to go?
Museum, which I think is that way. Am I
No,
right?
it's definitely that way.
Oh, okay.
Let me see here. All right, first of all, you're upside down, okay?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so yeah, we're way down here, all right, and
Okay.
you want to be up here.
It's that way.
Right, so you're
Okay.
going to head 5 blocks north,
Right.
okay? When you get to Joey's Pizza, make a right.
Pizza's
Yeah. Then you're going to go 3 blocks east, okay? There's a hot dog cart on this corner. You're going to make a left at that hot dog cart, and you're going to go 3 blocks past this jazz club, and it's going to be right in front of you. You can't miss
Okay,
it.
great.
Great. Okay, so I knew I was right about this. So it's 5, 3, and 3.
Got it.
Awesome. Great. Thank you
Thank
very
you so
much.
much.
Oh, wait. Let me get a picture of you guys. Thank you so much.
Got it? Now take a look at this map. Listen one more time and see if you can follow these directions to find your way to the museum.
So you're gonna head 5 blocks north.
Right.
Okay. When you get to Joey's Pizza, make a right.
Your pizza's
Yeah.
good.
Then you're gonna go 3 blocks east. Okay. There's a hot dog cart on this corner. You're gonna make a left at that hot dog cart, and you're gonna go 3 blocks past this jazz club, and it's gonna be right in front of you. You can't miss
Okay,
it.
great.
Great.
So, were you able to follow the students' directions to the museum? If your brain mapping abilities were up to the task, you'd see that the directions the student gave were spot on. For those who followed along, congratulations on having great spatial awareness. There's just one problem. Those tourists weren't really lost.
No.
In fact,
No.
they weren't tourists at all.
Come on.
Instead of watching a student helping a lost couple with directions, you were watching a couple of pickpockets helping themselves to the student's cell phone,
3 blocks east.
wallet,
Make a left at that hot dog cart.
and tablet.
3 blocks past this jazz club, and it's gonna be right in front of you. You can't miss
Okay,
it.
great. Thanks.
Good luck, guys.
There are countless examples out there of how video cameras have helped save the association when people's recollection of events just doesn't line up. We also know homeowners tend to blame things on the association that really was the homeowner's fault, like kids misusing fitness equipment and getting injured, but then blaming the association. A number of years ago, a man died in the hot tub at a association here in Southwest Florida, and the family sued the association, saying that the hot tub temperature was too high, and that's what led to his heart attack. Now, the association had video footage of this gentleman, and he was in the hot tub several hours, drinking alcohol. In the end, that video footage helped keep the association out of liability. Okay, this is the end of my second case study, but since we're talking about video, I'd love to hear examples of where people's video surveillance system helped them either avoid liability or catch a criminal. So if you have a story to share, go ahead and type it, email it, text it to me, and I'll read it out loud here. Thanks. Okay, someone just mentioned one of my favorite scenarios, community gates. So if you manage a gated community, then a good camera system at your front gates, man, they will pay for themselves. This manager writes, our gates get hit by vehicles almost every month. Sometimes the damage is minor, but several times a year the repair costs are in the thousands. We installed a system with a license plate capture camera, and it has allowed us to go directly after the driver's auto insurance for the damage. The camera system literally paid for itself after the first impact. Now, this is a really good point. We see some communities even have camera systems maybe at their front gates, but in order to save a few dollars, they would put in, say, a standard camera instead of a license plate recognition camera. You'll hear the term LPR. Now, a standard camera might have really great resolution and provide very clear pictures, but what it doesn't do very well, it doesn't handle brake lights, might cause the license plate to get washed out, or the reflection from headlights that are hitting the license plate from behind, or even just motion blur as the car is moving. It might be difficult to read those license plates. So a good LPR camera, yes, might be a few $100s more than a standard camera, but it'll probably pay for itself on its first impact. So, all right, let me check for a few more comments and we'll go on to our next case study. Okay, another good one came in here. This manager says, I have heard newer cameras offer really great video compared to old systems. That's true. How do I know if my system is an old system or a new system? And if my system is old, can I just replace the cameras or do I need new wire as well? Okay, this might be difficult to answer quickly. Yes, the old analog systems, you kind of got that quality like VCR, and we saw some videos earlier of those thief fail compilations. Kind of grainy, kind of hard to see things. Newer digital IP cameras are exceeding 4K in quality, 4K like what you would see on your television at home. Very clear, and the cameras are a lot smarter. They're much better at adjusting for varying light levels, which often would cause like dark areas on videos and brighter areas and washing out videos. Now it kind of adjusts itself to capture. Sometimes they'll overlay 3 or 5 different video streams to create just the right video capture for you. So super smart. I don't want to get into a term called analytics. Actually, we just don't have time. It'll be in a future class where the cameras are able to analyze and see what's happening and respond, say, to a person in the pool late at night or tailgating at the front of your community. But as to how much you have to replace, if you have an old analog system, you really can't go from analog to digital IP without replacing wire. And that can get expensive in some of these larger properties where you've got wire all buried in the wall and old conduit that was put in when the building was installed or building was built. So there is sort of this in-between camera system where they can get HD quality video over your old analog coax lines. It's kind of a case-by-case thing. It's certainly something that the association would need to sort of weigh the pros and cons of, and probably something you should talk to your camera installer about to know what your options are. So really good question. All right, I'm going to pause just for one more second here, and then we'll get on to our next case study. Okay, guys, hey, thank you for your comments so far, and if I didn't catch one of your comments here when we're in the section, I'll try to catch whatever I missed maybe at the end. So keep leaving comments, even if I miss them, we'll pick them up later. We've just dealt with a couple pretty heavy case studies, so I thought we'd go with something a little simpler. In this case, I like to call the Dancing Queen. Now, it takes place at a community pool, much like many of you all have. A simple pool, couple bathrooms with a nice low fence around the whole thing. In this community, in order to secure the pool from neighboring kids or neighbors wanting to use the pool, they put in a double-sided deadbolt, keyed in, keyed out. And this family went down to the pool one day. Beautiful day, and father and wife and a couple teenage kids, and father falls asleep by the pool, and the kids and the wife had had enough. They gather up their things, they head back to their unit. And when this man wakes up, he discovers that with them taking all of the stuff, he no longer had a key or a cell phone and could not get out. And I picture this guy as kind of a capable guy, and I'm going to pre-apologize for this video, but I kind of picture he looks like this. So here he is, he's happy, he's dancing, he's thinking, hey, no big deal. This fence is only, 4 feet tall? I can easily scale this thing. And as he's trying to jump over the fence, his Speedo gets caught on the top of there, and he ends up falling and hurting himself. Now, not seriously, not severely, don't worry, he is okay, and I'm sure is now back to dancing. But, again, not long after the incident, the family sued the association. Alright, I'm going to let this guy dance it out while we get our comments back. Answer yes in the comments if you think the association is liable for Dancing Queen's injuries, and comment no if you think he should just stick to dancing. Okay, I just can't take any more of it. I'm going to cut it a little bit short here. The responses are coming back about 50-50. People saying that, yes, the association's liable, and some saying that, no, it's his fault for trying to jump the fence. In this scenario, the association was liable, and that's because there is a code that says, a fire code that says you have to allow free egress out of areas. Sounds crazy that it's a fire code, and here they are at a pool and nowhere near, say, in danger of fire. But it is in the code books, it is in the rule books, and for many years, the fire department simply didn't enforce it. I mean, there are places all over Southwest Florida right now with a key on both sides of their pool gates, and it's been like that for decades even. But we are seeing the fire departments coming through. They're citing associations that have these double-sided locks and requiring them some way to allow people to get out in the event that they lost their keys, or even codes or fobs. There usually has to be some type of button nearby that allows them to get out, or again, just free egress, walk up, pull down the lever, and get out. So if you have one of these systems on your property now, just be thinking about some point, and probably in the not too distant future, you're going to be required to change it. I'm going to treat you guys to another 10 or 15 seconds of the Dancing Queen while I get ready for my next case study.
I'll be good, don't you run away. I'll be good, you be good to me. I'll be so good to you, baby. I'll be good.
All right, well, we are ready for our last case study, but before we get there, somebody did send in a question wondering who that gentleman is, and I've got his name right here. He is Benjamin Cole. He has 22,000 subscribers on YouTube, and he's got a lot of good stuff out there. So if you're looking for a smile, look that guy up. He'll make your day. All right, so our next case study I call Safety First. Okay, so this is a property in Fort Myers that has vehicle gates at the front of their property, but they didn't have pedestrian gates. The pedestrians or people on bikes would use the same vehicle gate to come and go from the front of their property. And a lot of people like to walk or ride their bikes to the nearby mall. And over the years, the gates had been a maintenance hassle and stopped working and cost quite a bit of money, so the association just left them open for quite a long period of time. And the area wasn't really known for crime. It was pretty safe and nobody thought much of it. And I'm wondering how many other associations may have gone in this direction. Most associations, of course, that I deal with are always looking at increasing their security or increasing their amenities. But I'm curious if any of you all out there have experienced the opposite, where you're removing security from your property for various reasons. I've heard of it popping up from time to time, where a community might take away a gate that accessed a beach, or unlock a clubhouse or a pool that used to be left unlocked. And I think this points to a tension that I notice in every community, where you have to find your balance between convenience for the homeowners and security for the property. Generally, the more secure something is, the less convenient it is. Say, locking a pool or a clubhouse may increase the association's security, but homeowners may complain that they have to carry a fob or a key or so on. For this community, the vehicle gates were just too big of an inconvenience. The homeowners didn't want them, and the cost of maintaining the gates were just not important enough to keep it in their budget. But after several years, with the gates left open, the association decided it was time to turn them back on. So they hired a local gate company, not me, and the gate company came out and powered everything up and said, you're good to go, and walked away. And I'm not sure if anybody maybe catches where the problem might be here, but I'm going to give you a hint. Within a week, there was a report of a vehicle being hit by the gate. Thankfully, the damage to the car was minimal, just a few scrapes and not very expensive. But I'm going to pause here for a moment because I want to hear, for you all that have associations with gates, when somebody comes in and reports that the gate hit their car, what do you do? Do you pay the bill? What's your response? Okay, somebody commented that they would check the camera system. That is a great answer. Cameras can let you know if it really was the gates that failed and hit the car, or if the car and the driver was driving too fast or tailgating somebody. Landscapers are notorious for this. They try to tailgate a homeowner into the community, and they have that huge trailer on the back with these wheel wells that stick out, and they just catch the edge of the gate as they're coming through and just rip it off or do lots of damage. In this scenario here, I hope you can see it on the screen. It's a little dark. This couple here tried to blame the association for damage to their car, and they get a little nutty here in the end. Thankfully, again, the association had camera system. You could see you can't always trust people when they say it's the gate that hit your car. Unfortunately for the community that we're discussing in this case study, they didn't have a camera system to rely on to help them make a decision. Well, it seems like most of you have said in the comments that you would not pay to fix the scratch on the car, assuming that they were tailgating or doing something wrong. In this case, though, for this association, they did pay to have the car detailed and the scratch removed. It wasn't a big deal. It wasn't a very expensive repair, but they really missed a big glaring problem. And that is that the gate was actually able to close and hit a vehicle. Gates shouldn't. They should have sensors in place to prevent that from happening. And if the gate could close on a vehicle, potentially what else could it close on? And that, in the end, is what happened. A few more weeks pass, and a little man that I picture like this is walking his dog to the supermarket. Of course, he has to use the same gates that the vehicles use. And so he hits the button to open the gate and begins to walk through, but is just not fast enough to make it through the opening before the gate begins to close. The gate hits him, doesn't stop, and ends up breaking several bones. Now, certainly age was an issue here. If he was younger, he may have gotten through the gate quick enough, or maybe wouldn't have been injured so severely. But I left off a small detail earlier. After that gate company had come out and turned on all of the equipment, they had left a small note on the invoice saying not all the safety sensors were functioning. And this is where I feel like we need to spread the blame around a little bit. So who do you think is at fault here? Is it the association when the gate hit the car for not reporting something or not taking action to fix the problem? Or is it the vendor that initially turned on the gates without them being safe? Let me know in the comments. I will take a short little break here to give you guys time to type things up, and we'll see what you think. Okay, let's see. Marcia here makes a good point. She says that the manager is not an expert on how gates are supposed to operate or on gate codes, so she places 100% of the blame on the vendor for even allowing the gates to be put into operation without them being 100% safe. I think this is a good point. I believe it also can be applied to all aspects of your property. Managers aren't elevator experts or fire alarm technicians or irrigation specialists. I mean, a good manager may have a good general understanding of these systems, but it would be impossible for a manager to understand everything. So, good point. All right, let's see. It looks like that's all the questions for now, so I'll move on. Okay, so here's the unfortunate conclusion of this case study, is that associations tend to be the ones with money, or at least insurance. And in this case, the vendor that was hired wasn't licensed and didn't carry any insurance, so the association is the one that got sued. I recently sat through a legal update class for community associations, and it was almost a joke that at the end of every scenario, it would end with, "and the association was sued." So in the end, I think all that the manager can do, or that you can do as a manager, is attempt to work with reputable vendors and make sure everybody's insurance is in order. Okay, someone just mentioned maintenance contracts for gates, cameras, and access control systems asking if I recommend them. That's a tough one. I do for gates, definitely. Basic maintenance at least twice a year to make sure the safety sensors are working, make sure the batteries are working going into our thunderstorm season. There's nothing worse than having power go out and the batteries are dead and the gates don't open and you've got a line of cars out to the road of angry people wanting to get home from work. I'm not as excited for maintenance contracts on camera systems unless it's a camera system that isn't often viewed. If there's no live view and very rarely does anybody look at it, again, I would suggest having somebody, even if you have to pay, take a look at it a couple times a year, make sure it's recording, make sure the dates and times are right, make sure a camera's not filled with water or pointed at the ground. And then I also see maintenance contracts for access control systems. Again, they may be okay. The things I tend to lean against are maintenance contracts that are really just long-term leasing of equipment. There's a few companies that do that where it's no or very little money up front, but they lease the equipment to you. One of my frustrations with that is that you never really own the equipment. So even in the end, there really is no end. You're going to be paying a monthly maintenance fee just to have that equipment. And if at any time you stop paying or decide you don't want to pay for it anymore, they take their equipment back or your equipment doesn't work. And so you're kind of left with nothing at the end. So not a big fan of leasing equipment, that type of contract. But maybe some preventative maintenance would be okay. So that wraps up this case studies course. Again, I'm going to stay online for a little while here to see if anybody has any other questions or comments, and I'll read them off here. This is actually the last time I think I'm teaching this particular case studies class. We've got some new case studies that we'll be presenting in the future, but also look for our class on shattering security, where we review how environmental factors like hurricanes and fire and flood, how people and how even just age can affect and effectively destroy your security system. So anyway, have a good night and thanks for listening.